from these kids that you could tell were so excited and came with like a love for the show or a love for theater or just a unbridled passion that we were like, we can scoop that.
Shakespeare once said all the world's a stage, but he didn't tell us how to get there. This is Steps to the Stage, a 7th Street Theater podcast. I'm your host, Colin Pinedo, and let's get this show going.
Thank you, places!
Folks at home, do you have a business, small or otherwise, that isn't pulling in traffic the way you want it to? Well, it might be because they don't have something to remember you by. And that's why today we are sponsored by Graphic Details Inc., signs and displays. They will print out your banners, they'll cut vinyl, they'll do window graphics for the company cars. We're talking business cards, banner stands, LCD displays, tabletop displays, logos, all in full living color. Again, that is Graphic Details Inc. here in Chino, California. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome back to Steps to the Stage, the 7th Street Community Theater podcast, where I talk to the community theater professionals you know and love. I'm your host, Colin P, and today we are joined by our directors for our new show, The Lightning Thief, Miss Allison and Miss Marlee. Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
Hello. This is very exciting. Now, what drew you to the show initially?
I was definitely obsessed with it as a child, and it's like I thought the obsession was like repressed, but it wasn't. It was underlying the whole time. So I was like, "Oh my god, a musical? That's crazy!"
Yeah, Marlee and I have wanted to direct something together for quite a while now, and
very true.
I really loved the musical, and then we just kind of found ourselves kind of just happened naturally. We're like, we're doing The Lightning Thief, right? Like that's what we're pitching.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we did. And also just like we knew how much the kids were talking about it too at the theater. Like there was a buzz about Percy Jackson, and I just felt like, well, one, Marlee needs to do that, and two, so do I. So let's
also just
do it
so
together.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just a fun, different musical, something, a little bit more new. This is a newer musical. It's a rock musical, so it's different from the things we've done in the past. And I just wanted to kind of see what that would look like on our stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned being obsessed with it as a kid, because one of the questions I have written down is, have either of you read the books, and if that influenced your decision or not?
Yes.
Yes. The hard yes.
It sure did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a bit older than Marlee. And so like my time era craze, like Percy Jackson was obviously around, but it wasn't like, I was a little bit older when they came out. But I didn't read the book until Marlee put it in my lap and was like, well, now you have to read it. And so obviously I'm still nowhere near my journey as Marlee is. Marlee's like the expert on all things Percy Jackson, like genuinely. So it kind of is fun because I'm learning a lot as we go, and also getting to do my own research as a director, which is fun.
Yeah, it's also fun because there's obviously been a movie from this book and like so many other books in the series, and like I just feel like this is a really like faithful adaptation. Like there's obviously some stuff has to change, but it feels more like the heart of the book, so that's been fun to like see the differences and the similarities.
Yeah, it feels so different from the movie.
Yeah, the movie is not the vibes of the book. This is the vibes of the book.
Yeah, it feels really, really, really good. I mean, the first line you hear Percy say is the first line
in the book. Yeah,
so it's great.
It is. It really does carry the same vibes and the same sense of humor that the book does, and it
absolutely.
It's just it's a really fun show, and I'm glad that you guys are bringing it here. I'm very excited because
Did you read the book?
Yes, I read the books.
Okay, I was like, Colin.
Yes, I was obsessed with them when I was younger, and when the musical came out, my brain exploded a little bit, I'll admit.
Absolutely.
And is Chris McCarroll not perfect for?
Oh yeah, he was great. Oh, he was fantastic.
Original.
Yeah,
he's perfect.
He was great. He was great. So, talk to me about sort of your vision for this show, because the original production of the show has such a distinct like visual style with that sort of like street and like almost the spray paint type of deal. And so how are you doing with that? Or is it going to differ from that in any way?
It definitely, we're tying into that DIY street feel. It's definitely there. Like the design aspects of like the set match up more closely, but like our character visions and that's where like it really starts to differ from the original production, but it does have those same DIY vibes and like stuff's kind of like you can stuff's kind of on the side of the stage and then we see it be created. Like we're not hiding away. Like it is suggestions of things that like tell the story.
Yeah,
we're
and like
moving away from realism.
Yeah, this you're gonna see the tables on set that are gonna be used later, and like the blocks are there because they're there. Like everything on the set will most likely be used in some way. But yeah, like she said, our characters are really where we started to take a different toll,
and the look of them is very different.
Yeah, like so how we kind of did the gods was and monsters is they kind of covered the decades starting from the 30s on to now. And so like each god has a different vibe. Like for example, Hades is our 80s goth because we feel like much like goth people, Hades is
80s.
Yeah, Hades 80s Hades.
Of course.
Like goth is just misunderstood and it's just a look, even though there's still a vibe behind it. Like it doesn't mean that they're necessarily like this terrible person. Much like Hades, like yes, he's the god of the underworld, but like death isn't, you know, not partial to certain things. Like it just is what it is. And then like, you know, we stayed true to the Ares motorcycle vibe.
Yeah, and Poseidon's similar.
Poseidon's kind of versa, but like we did like Medusa as like this distraught like
Scorned
prima donna
beauty queen.
Yeah, like it's just, you know, we got different vibes. And then also like something that I'm not ashamed to say is like I really, really don't like how the women are written in this show. I think the women are written terribly in this show, personally. And like something too is like we have to take into consideration like the original is 7 people in the cast, right?
Yes.
That's how the show is written.
Like 9 roles.
They're playing 9 roles each, basically. So there's really not a lot of time with these characters on stage. They don't really develop very much. And they're throwing on stuff all the time, which is great in its own right. It worked for them. It just didn't really work for us. And so we decided to give these full-rounded characters a moment, and especially the women. Like, I appreciate the Annabeth in the original. Like, I don't think she's not talented. That's not what I'm saying. She's talented. What I'm saying is I don't think it captured the heart of Annabeth the way we wanted it to.
Yes.
And so our Annabeth is a little bit different. She's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more raw, a little less up here all the time, and a little bit more down here. And the wonderful Marlee Lane plays her, which very much you'll notice right away. Like even with the casting, you can see the differences in how we went about things.
There it is.
And like we just have a different take on it. And we're really excited because I think it's really cool to see that, like, yes, a lot of people, especially between the ages of like 12 and 25, love this musical, but it is going to be a little bit different than what you've seen, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. That's exciting. Yeah. Speak on casting these characters, especially with a series and a franchise as well known as this, especially in this demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just even in general with casting, like we had such a talented audition pool to choose from. So it was really exciting to think about the books, think about the musical, think about our opinions, and then taking from these kids that you could tell were so excited and came with like a love for the show or a love for theater or just a unbridled passion that we were like, we can scoop that. We could have
cast the show like 8 different ways.
Yeah.
And you know, it was really with a small theater like this, and you get a lot of returners, you get a lot of veteran, like you get a lot of people. We had I think almost every high school in a couple districts was represented except one in our district. So it was really tough because we had honestly the best of the best to pull from. Every single person that auditioned got a call back. I've never done that in my entire directing career. And that was so hard because we had so many notes and so many Post-its and so many versions of this show. And it really just came down to what was our original vision and what are we hoping to leave the audience with? And like I said, like there really wasn't the nose or like casting the show. Like, something as a director that's already in the Colin, you can kind of attest to this now being in that you've directed a couple of shows at this point. It's one of the hardest rooms to be in casting and having to say no, or even having to be like, I'm putting my faith in this person, like those things are tough and they are real decisions. And it just got down to like, no, we're saying no to extremely talented people.
Yes.
And that's really hard. We had a total of 40 kids come audition, and we turned away half. I mean, the cast is only 21 people. Yeah. And that's above the number that we had. We originally were only going to cast 18.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And so we split it up a little bit because they were so great. So it was a really long, but also really honest process. Something me and Marlee really value is just being candid with each other and just being like, but what I realized was the whole team, including Sarah Hoganrad, our wonderful choreographer, we were all on the same page about things, and that's really important. Helped, So
and since this show has so many very interesting ensemble roles, that was a fun part of the auditions. It's just these ensemble characters, because it's coming from a book which you can have so many characters, they're just rich characters, and you're these are so fun. This is so cool.
And it's so different from the original casting, because the original is, like I said, it's 7 people playing a bunch of roles. So we got to play with okay, let's make, for example, some of our demigods are also monsters.
Yes.
Or for example, Adam, who's playing Ares, wonderful, but he's also the train conductor, and he's also Vincent Fernandez, and he's doing a whole bunch of stuff, and that was really cool to see that these kids can be versatile in this show. They don't have to play one, and so it's really cool to see that. And we do have quite a bit of fight choreography. You're doing different things that we haven't really done on the stage too much in the last couple of shows that are really high intensity. And so getting to see these kids kind of come to life during that audition process was really fun, to see what they're capable of, push them a little bit and then be go play and we'll see what happens.
Love that. So, yeah. Sounds very dense, very all-encompassing, which is very exciting.
Yeah. And you know what? Also, too, the amount of boys that showed up was awesome.
Yeah,
because
really?
that was half of our auditioners, 22 of them were boys, which for our small theater, if you're listening and you've come to this theater a lot, obviously, boys, it's really hard to find boys in this theater, in this community. It is. And any theater, really, boys are tough to come by. But we were so grateful because you can see that the high schools are really the community is really coming through with getting everyone involved. And we also have such a large queer population. We have kids who are switching genders in this show,
which is so Greek mythology.
Which is so Greek mythology.
Yeah, absolutely.
And something I guess we should say this too is something that's in the original documentation for Percy Jackson is anyone can play anyone and it can look like anything.
Yeah, it says
and that
gods
was really
and
important to
look
us.
Like us.
Yeah, they don't need to be this certain typecast. We did not typecast at all. That was our one thing that we were no, we want all bodies, all genders, all races. I don't care, all different abilities. It doesn't matter. If you come and you're good, you're in the show. You know what I mean? And so that's a big part of our casting too. Yeah. And we wanted to hold true to that.
Yeah.
For the lighting.
That sounds great. Yeah, I love that. You mentioned sort of how the gods are going through each decade and sort of music and everything. Would you mind talking about the music in this show and sort of what drew you to that and sort of how you're tackling it?
Sure.
Oh my God, the music in the show is so fun because it does the gods are going through different decades. It goes through different decades. It goes through different genres. We're all over the place with the music, and I think a lot of people know "Good Kid" the song and then kind of don't listen to some other stuff, but every song, and you kind of have to once you listen to it over and over again, you're these are so good.
Yeah, and it really does play obviously it's more of a rock pop musical. Yes. I wouldn't even say pop. I would say more rock alternate music. It's obviously a rock alternative musical, but it stays true to its musical theater roots in Act 2 a little bit.
Yeah.
And it has, I'm going to sneeze again. It has a couple of those types of songs that obviously Drive is clearly a musical theater piece that's getting us somewhere, right? But then you have DOA, which is this big dance.
We go disco, club music, electronic.
Mixed with these mixed with these icons like Kurt Cobain and Janis Joplin. And the original is James Brown, but we have Vincent Fernandez, who's played by Adam again.
If you need high-quality headshots or other professional photo work done, visit Xochi Neri Photography at fb.me/xneriPhotos.
You know, you have all these different vibes going on. But something that was really important to us is that the gods kind of stand out, obviously. Like, they need to look different from our demis. They need to look different. So they don't get a lot of music. They are like
no,
featured.
Yeah, the gods don't sing that much.
So their looks were important, you know, but they don't really sing that much. It's really a lot of Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, and then the ensemble coming in with like these random, like, here's me just belting and skrelting randomly, and you're like, slay.
Yeah, and also the music is, like, the show is very flowy as well. Like, music goes into scenes are into music. It's very all together and like quick transitions, and then we're on to the next thing. Just all goes together all nice.
Yeah, and like the writer of the music, he's he's a wonderful musician, and he's got like an acoustic version of this album somewhere. It's really cool. Like, it's really cool to see like how his music has translated from like this rock into the musical theater world. And how does that look on our stage without an orchestra, right? We're a theater that doesn't have an orchestra. And the original plan was to have a band. But again, as a volunteer organization, it's hard to nail down those musicians in the summer. And so we always had the backup plan of tracks, but these tracks are beautiful. But it is different than when you're going on a Broadway stage and you've got a live rock band underneath you, you know. It's just a different world. But it is great music. It's really good. Yeah. It's really ridiculous for women. The songs written for women are insane. All our girls are like, I'm in the rafters, or I'm way down here, and
or they're right then and right there.
Yeah, like it's pretty crazy. Like the girl who's playing Clarice, Ashley, she is literally screaming, but I mean, she's beautiful, but like that song is insane, and it's
while she's running
and fighting, and you're like, women,
put you in your place. It will put you in your place.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about the music, I guess.
Yeah, I think Rob Rikiki is who made the music.
Yes,
I just
thank
Googled
you.
it. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I was like, I don't have Google right here, so thank you.
Yeah. You mentioned how you feel about how the women are written and portrayed in this musical. How are you working to sort of alleviate that and remedy that, if you mind speaking on it?
I mean, specifically Annabeth, obviously me loving the books, like, and then loving books, and then a character who loves books and is smart as a woman and like powerful, like reading the books, Annabeth was like, I was like, she's perfect, she is me.
I am her.
Like,
we
I'm
are
celebrating
one.
her birthday.
Dyeing my hair blonde. It's all happening.
Pretty much. So just really the way we're going about talking about character, portraying specifically Annabeth, but obviously all the other characters too, just making them a little more grounded really is the right word, because they do end up kind of feeling flighty sometimes, and that's not how they are.
Yeah, I think a lot goes into not necessarily what's written and what you guys see at the end of it, but what happens with us in our rehearsal process and the work we do beforehand and building out these characters. So by the time they get to you while you're sitting in the seats, you're seeing a full rounded person. And again, like, it's nothing bad to the writers. You're writing a musical. That's how it should be. And the actors should take on that position of creating all this story and this backstory. And what's really cool for our actors is they've got books and books and books of history
and
to go into.
Yeah, and this is technically like a triple adaptation, because you're dealing with Greek mythology, which is thousands of years old, Greek drama, which is thousands of years old, and then a book, which is the adaptation of it, and then a musical that's the adaptation of that. So you have a lot to
you've got a lot to dive into. And so part of that, again, is the casting of like, oh, we know these people, right? But to us, something that's really important as directors is we cast what comes into our room. So whatever you give us that day, that's what we're casting on, right? And Abby's ability to take Annabeth into, like, she wasn't so about herself. Like, don't get me wrong, I do like the original, but it did feel very Annabeth centered, her character. And to me, it's like, yes, that is a part of you, but obviously there's a part of you that cares. And eventually you do end up falling in love with this boy. So we do have to like start building that relationship, even though our audience isn't going to see that. Right. And Abby had this natural ability to like just make you fall in love with Annabeth enough for you to go, oh, I forgive her for when she's
But
being
also,
a brat.
I feel like she could beat me up.
Yes, like exactly. Like you're like, she's gonna hurt me, but also it's better for me if she puts me in my place. Again, with like some of the other women, it's more just like, okay, how do you hold yourself on stage? When your character walks in, what do you know that you're telling us subconsciously?
Yeah.
Right? So that's just part of the acting process.
And
is
this
like,
also goes into the roles aren't so doubled. You have a little more time that also is a lot of the, like, with these actors who are like quick changing, running backstage.
they're never on stage long enough.
They get some time to like settle into what they're doing.
And of course, like we get to play with that a little bit, right? Like Clarice isn't in the original Campfire song. She's not there. She's playing a different character at that song. But we were able to input her and have her be like a little bit away. And she's kind of struggling with Percy there. So you kind of get this visual story without us ever having to tell you anything. And you can kind of see who she really is. And then something that Adam did that's really great is he's playing Aries. Well, Aries is Clarice's godly parent. And so they've gotten together about like, what body language do we have in common that you can tell that I'm your dad? And like, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love, that they've been able to take that inspiration and form those deep bonds with each other, and how by not double casting all the roles, it is able to fill out the picture even more and create a more complete story. Like, that's great.
Yeah, it's something that I think every director and every actor kind of just needs to be prepared for, is like, you're not always going to get what you have to give. You know, like your script isn't always going to give you everything. And so I think it sounds like, obviously actors can kind of roll their eyes like, oh, I gotta, do my backstory. What's my favorite color and what's my favorite food?
It works.
And, that's great. That works sometimes. But sometimes it's just as simple as like, how do I actually genuinely hold myself when I'm on stage? And like, that's something too with our actors, especially the women, because a lot of them are playing multiple roles. And so many of them have to go from being like this demigod to like a monster, or like, this crazy, like, for example, Carly, she's a dancer, and then she's Mrs. Dodds, and then she's a squirrel. Like it, like she's got to learn how to manipulate her body in 2 hours. And like, that's a feat of itself, but really just what's your presence like? What do you know that you can give the audience? What's written for us and what's given to us naturally? And then go from there.
Yeah, you've talked about the costumes a little bit. Would you mind talking about sort of the lights and the sound and sort of the other design elements that you've had input in and be able to bring to this?
Yeah, we decided we really wanted like some student involvement in like the design. So we have we're calling it like a scenic artist team. We've got Shelby, Maya, and Kay, and they've been helping really like lay out that kind of DIY fun design, and they're gonna help with. There's a lot of puppets in the show. They'll help with painting. So we have all of that, and then we also have Sean doing our lighting design. And what's cool about the set is that you're gonna see the like black brick walls of the theater. So the lighting really gets to have like a fun play in this.
The lighting really is a character in itself.
It really is a character. And there's so much like about color that's important. I mean, obviously blue is important to the story, greens. But there's a lot of like color, and we're going to so many different places. Like lighting is really going to be like a
center point of this show.
The lighting thief, if you really want to.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah. And, I think something that's hard when you're doing, when you have a small space that maybe wasn't built for like, because a lot of Percy 2 is so much like, it is kind of like a concert more than it is a show, right? So like our sound designer, we're hoping to really get them to be able to almost like run it like a concert show. Like we're going to be, doing that live style technique, how do you engineer on day of, during the performance, what elements are coming in, what does all that look like? And so it's really like we really trust our teams and the mentors that are training them. And we've got a pretty large crew, which we're really excited about. And we've got a makeup assistant as well, who's also in our cast. Cesar Serrano, who's playing Medusa, is also our student makeup assistant. And so what's happening is Jason Bender, who's a veteran of the theater, but also as a professional. As a professional makeup artist. He's coming in, but he's basically doing what Broadway does. Here's your look. Now you do it for your performances, right? So he's coming in, he's training them, and then Caesar gets to go, yes, that's enough. Or, like, let's fix this a little bit. And so that's really cool because we feel like our students are getting prepared to become leaders eventually and do this themselves.
Yeah, and so much of the show is like we go to so many environments and like crazy environments. So like it's almost like everyone has a hand, like the actors, the set, the costumes, the makeup, all has like a hand in how this world of multiple worlds is being built.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we really want that to be a full collaboration style, much like Camp Half-Blood. Like we've got to come together to build things, even though we're all staying in our own lane and doing our thing,
Yes.
And that comes around again to that sort of DIY industrial feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's all connected.
Putting the pieces together. Now that you've mentioned puppets, so now you're gonna have to talk to me about puppets. You can't say that, and I'm not gonna let that slide. Like, please tell me about the puppets.
Yeah. Well, of course, as we've been saying, there's lots of monsters in the show, and kind of also fitting with the DIY vibe. A lot of our monsters, the squirrel too is a puppet.
Yeah.
A lot of that's done through puppetry, and also puppetry that's like not hiding the fact that it's puppetry. Like you're gonna see the people on stage. We also have shadow puppets we have like every different type of puppet.
We really
hand
do.
puppets, shadow puppets,
and like
puppets
costumes
attached to people.
Yeah.
Like it's really also with a show with so many stories within a story, you need like a fun way to like tell something sometimes without like a human. Like puppetry's been around forever. Like humans obviously respond to it. Also as a Muppet fan, like you just can't like I'm sorry. Like there's just something about puppetry that's like so intriguing and so like otherworldly in the way it can tell stories, and it just fits in perfectly with the show.
It does. That was my thing, is like
It
it naturally makes people suspend their disbelief. Yeah. Because when they see a puppet, because it's been around for so long, you instantly go, okay, well, now I know the monsters are real.
Yep.
It's weird because you're like, I know that's a puppet, but to me now as an audience member, I'm like, exactly.
It's a big, real physical thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you're seeing something, and so now you've accepted this reality, right? So even though like our actress is coming on with the squirrel and she's just making that funny, we have an instant connection with that squirrel.
Yeah.
Brendan Shepard, who is one of the most talented kids I've ever met. He's very tall. He's 14 and he's 6'2". So he's our Minotaur. And like when he puts on the Minotaur head, like it's going to be terrifying. You know what I mean? Like it's naturally like we're taking people in without having to be like, look, see, we're telling you a story. It's like, no, you can just observe it. And then with like Tree on the Hill, which is the story that when Grover tells Percy like his motivation for why he is, right? That's where we're using the shadow puppetry and shadow work with our dancers.
Yeah, it works in the flashback aspect of it.
You know, like and me having a film background and Marlee being such a film fan is like that type of storytelling, like shadow work always kind of takes you into the past, you know what I mean? And so for me, I was like, immediately when I heard the song, the first thing I thought of was shadow puppets, you know, like, and so it just fit perfectly in there. And it's fun because our scenic design team, the scenic artists get to work on puppets, which is like really cool.
They get to make them and they get to be the puppeteers.
So it's really cool. So yeah, we're really excited to see what that ends up looking like. And for the audience to talk about it. Yes. We love puppets so much.
I love puppets. I'm excited. I know there are puppets. I'm excited. This already what you're telling me sounds so interesting and so ambitious. I for one very excited to be able to come and see it. What are the opening dates? When
So we opened July. Yeah, for sure. We opened July 13th,
which is a Thursday.
A Thursday. We run for 3 weekends. We're a little bit shorter of a production. You can get tickets at the Chino Community Children's Theater website. And like also follow us on Instagram because we post a lot of fun stuff behind the scenes about rehearsals. Our cast is absolutely incredible, like genuinely, truly great people, great actors, great professionals, and
already so an ensemble.
Yeah. And that's something that's really important to us. And so we want you to come be a part of that and to come see it. So come see The Lightning Thief and hang out with us and have a good time. It is a really funny show and it really is a full rounded story. So
it's a good time.
In today's day and age, it's more important than ever to remain informed and present in your community, which is why today we would like to highlight the Chino Champion local newspaper. Make sure you keep up with all of Chino's great local events like festivals, meetups, and live performances, virtual or otherwise. The Chino Champion. Thanks for tuning in. Please, subscribe to Steps to the Stage on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. And scene.